thank you very much for coming to this press conference this afternoon, where we will address a few matters relating to the rollout of ASYCUDA World. I'm accompanied here this afternoon by Minister Sutherland, who's the Minister for Small Business, Entrepreneurship and Commerce, as well as the Comptroller of Customs, Mr. Owen. 4 weeks ago, I joined a press conference, the post-cabinet press briefing. It would have indicated that we were moving ahead with respect to the launch and upgrade of the customs infrastructure in terms of part of the modernization for government, specifically ASYCUDA World, upgraded from ASYCUDA++. And at that time, we had indicated that the timeline with respect to implementation would have been September 1st. And subsequent to that press briefing, we would have had a particular postponement of that, and we actually went live not on September 1st, but certainly on September 9th, which is Monday, earlier this week. Now, as a result of that, and as I communicated then, a number of opportunities would have been presented itself with respect to training and upgrade, not just for customs personnel, but also the various stakeholders that form part of the implementation of ASYCUDA World. What I wanted to address specifically this afternoon is, in a sense, just to assure the public of Barbados that this process with respect to the way that customs is seeking to review and upgrade and modernize its infrastructure, and two, the business facilitation element with respect to small, medium, large businesses in Barbados, as well as to make it much easier for those individuals who have to clear items at the various ports of entry, to ensure that that process is as expedited as possible. Over the course of the last few days, post-implementation, we have had some technical issues of various nature, and the department has sought to address that as part of the implementation. Now, what has happened is that there's also been some circulating of various tidbits of information to which the department has sought to respond, and I wanted to make it clear to Barbadians that, as I did last month, was that the process through which we expect to modernize the customs department and the way that goods are processed is now moving from a paper system to a digital system. There are some aspects where the business community, and specifically the various stakeholders, whether the shipping association, the customs brokers, the Chamber of Commerce, the Barbados Manufacturers Association, the customs department over the past 3 months would have re-engaged these persons with respect to being able to get them ready with respect to the launch of ASYCUDA World. What I would have to say is that post, and certainly in presentation of some of the issues that would have come to customs, it appears as if, again, given that the department was meant to upgrade this system since 2014, as we appeal to the public then, and certainly those various stakeholders, that we were serious about going ahead with respect to implementation. Now, I can understand that the department in the past would have had some challenges in implementing the system in terms of the upgrade from ASYCUDA++ to ASYCUDA World, and as a result, a lot of persons perhaps perceived that certainly that it wasn't going to happen, and I accept that the week's postponement from September 1st to September 9th might have given persons the impression that, well, here we go again, and it's not going to happen, and unfortunately it's meant that persons were not as prepared as they ought to be in terms of the re-engagement of the system. And so what we want to address this afternoon is to alert certainly those various stakeholders that the Customs Department remain ready with the project project team to support any of those entities who require additional support, such that they can make it easier for the many thousands of Barbadians who engage the Customs Department with respect to the clearance of goods, whether it's your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, to help those persons, as well as to help the many small businesses, as well as the rest of the business community, be ready so that we can realize, in a sense, the benefits of digitizing the system. The Customs Department has done, over the last few months, and certainly in the run-up to September, a lot of work in conjunction with supported by the Barbados Revenue Authority, as well as the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, in readying itself, the department, to be able to help facilitate business, and certainly the way that business is done in the country. And so I want to stress that as we go through this modernization of customs, that the upgrade to ASYCUDA World again is critical to Barbados' competitiveness. We do not want people waiting in the port for any extended period of time, waiting on customs to process goods, unless there's a particular reason based on the risk management protocols that are established. Because whilst we are facilitating business, there's a national security component that is critical as part of the customs function, and therefore the standard operating procedures and the risk protocol that will be put in place will be consistent with that, but whilst at the same time being in a position to ensure that we can make things a lot easier with respect to the processing of goods into Barbados. And so it's important that the stakeholders, in a sense, get the additional support that they require from the Customs Department, and the Comptroller will speak to elements of that, which has already been done. It was always there. The testing environment was always there, but we are live now. And therefore, we have moved the needle with respect to not just the technical infrastructure, but the way that things are going to improve going forward. And so for persons and individuals specifically as it relates to the clearance of barrels, the fact that we have upgraded from ASYCUDA++ to ASYCUDA World does not affect you individually. The technical specifications and all of that relates to the various stakeholders. So whoever is your customs broker or whoever you shipped with, these are the persons who are required to engage the ASYCUDA World system on your behalf, so that you can feel the experience or the benefits with respect to being able to clear your items from the port. So there's no expectation at all, and I want to make this clear, no expectation at all that any individual who is not already involved in the customs processes with respect to the Bridgetown port or any other port of entry with respect to the clearance of items, that there's no requirement for anybody to upload anything to any site with respect to ASYCUDA World, as has been circulated with respect to social media. That is completely untrue. The documentation is well established within the context of ASYCUDA World. The stakeholders know what that set of documentation looks like, and therefore I want to assure the public that there's no disruption to their experience with respect to engaging on these matters. Now, I pause here just to reiterate that we have been going at this thing since 2014. And since then, Barbados, in a real context, has been left behind because we haven't upgraded not just the physical and IT infrastructure for customs, but over that period of time, there were a number of technical assistance reports done on what needed to happen at customs, and unfortunately, nothing took place. We've come to office with a clear mandate of improving and helping Barbadians to do their business as easily as possible. This is a critical part of how we do that, because how goods come in and out of the country is important. Customs also has a border security function and role to play, which is just as important as the revenue collection component of it. And therefore, the steps that we are taking to rebuild customs, in a sense, having received this report here in February of this year from the technical assistance team from CARTAC, which is here in Barbados, we have set in motion a series of reforms to deliver as part of the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program. Part of that process was to rebuild, in a sense, the management team at Customs, and you would know that from September 1st, the new Comptroller took office as part of that. What will be critical going forward with respect to the management of the Customs Department will be the establishment of a public-private sector committee, to which complaints or issues will be resolved, and that structure will be re-established so that the business facilitation and the customs professionals will be able to sit in the room with the various other stakeholders across a number of government departments to be able to address any issues as it relates to classification, any issues with respect to tariffs, any issues that may come up. And I'm sure you're aware that we've had plenty issues, whether it is cement, whether it is bitumen, a whole host of trade facilitation issues that we believe that structure will be able to address, such that if there are any specific policy determinations that coming out of that structure, then it will come to the Ministry of Finance and we will make the determination. But we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to lodge any complaint, give any feedback to customs, how to improve the standard operating procedures, how to resolve any specific conflict that may arise as a result as to the improvements of the systems and as we implement ASYCUDA World. But as we move forward with respect to then moving to the implementation of the electronic single window, for which Minister Sutherland's ministry has the responsibility for, but will work in collaboration with Customs to be able to implement. The Customs Department now has moved the ball forward, and therefore the other government departments now have to come and match that IT integration such that whether you're an ordinary citizen importing a ham for Christmas, as some people do, that you can get your license online, and that the process at the border is as seamless as possible. Whether you have to get a health certificate, that will be done, and that is something it forms part of the next phase with respect to being able to roll that out. And therefore, as we go through this, there's going to be continued communications, not just from the Customs Department as far as the customs procedures are concerned, but certainly the engagement through the Ministry of Small Business, Entrepreneurship and Commerce, that as we roll out the electronic single window, that we will continue to sensitize Barbadians as to how it will impact them, but with a view to letting them understand that this is how we intend to improve the competitiveness of the country, whilst at the same time making it easier for persons to be able to conduct their business. Now, it is important that the public understands that as we go through this process, we needed to ensure that we, in a sense, make decisions about how we deploy people. And I want to say at this stage that Barbados is lucky in that we have the benefit of a new control of customs who have had experience in implementing these systems across the region. And so as part of our effort, when we took the report from the CARTAC mission assessing customs, and we recognized that we had a Barbadian working across the region, sorting out other countries' customs departments when we needed help at home. And so we put the ad out, and Mr. Holder responded, and I think that with his experience in these areas, I think he's more than competent to address not just the technical issues, certainly, but with confidence to assure the public of Barbados that what we have done over the last few months and as to where we are now, that the benefits that he has been able to deliver for other countries, that once we work through these initial teething problems, as well as to work through the next phase with respect to the establishment of the electronic single window, that Barbadians will now start to see, in a sense, the benefits in terms of how these systems work. And then to the extent that the deployment and processing times and all of these things will redound to the benefit of all Barbadians. And I think I would want to pause at this stage and ask the Comptroller to address specifically what has been some of those issues that certainly persons may have experienced over the last four days, and in the context of his experience with respect to implementing these systems across the Caribbean.
Thank you, Minister. Good to go. Ready, Chris? Okay. Thank you, Minister Straughn, Minister Sutherland, members of the press. Thank you for being here. Let me start off from where he mentioned my experience in the region. I have been working with the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, implementing ASYCUDA World across the region. That experience has taken me as far as St. Helena in the South Atlantic, and as far south, further south as Bonaire and Curacao, and that's part of the ABC countries. So I'm very familiar with implementing these systems. I understand the teething issues that will be developed from implementing those systems. So from what we're seeing here in Barbados currently, I can say that this is a normal process of implementing the system. So I wish to assure the public that within probably a week's time, it will definitely settle down. And the advantages that you will get from implementing ASYCUDA World are numerous. And you will see a major change in how things are done. We are going towards a paperless environment, and therefore there will not be the need for you to present any paper to customs. For a matter of fact, any paper at all in the customs process, we will seek to eliminate that process altogether. So just give us some time. I'm sure that we'll be able to sort out the issues that are currently there. And as I said before, these issues are not anything new in my experience. And within short order, we have the consultant from the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development on board. And within short order, we'll be hoping that the system settle down and everything be working well. So I need to address a few of the issues that were out there. The first thing would be the issue about customs has changed the process of assessing barrels imported into the island. So I wish to say now categorically that that is not the case at all. We have continued to do the identical process that we've been doing with ASYCUDA++, and no change has occurred. But what I have done, I've looked down the road and I've understood that there is normally congestion within the port when barrels are imported, where you have the grandfather, the grandmother, and other persons, the persons who are at work and have to take time off to come and collect barrels from the port. So I've sought to implement a new system with the processing of those barrels, where we will now go to an interview process, and where customs is satisfied that those barrels that the contents of the barrels is identical to what has been declared on the declaration form, that barrel, the importer will be now permitted to go and pay the duties that are identified on the declaration form, and their barrels are free to go without examination. However, there is a control mechanism in place where, like any other commercial goods coming into the island, those barrels will be subject to selectivity, where they can either go from green lane or to the red lane. If they go to the red lane, when after payment is for examination, and that examination will be done by the enforcement division. If it goes green, the importer is free to take that goods. So that is a measure implementing, taking into consideration the poor man in this country, as I said before, the grandfather and the grandmother who will have to come and spend unlimited hours within the port. We know that at Christmas time, there's usually congestion within the port with persons having to collect barrels. As a matter of fact, what Port Authority does is start the process from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. So we are hoping that with the new measure that I've implemented, the flow would increase, where persons will no longer be required to stay that length of time within the port. In relation to the system itself, we have issues in relation to persons logging on to the system, and that is directly related to passwords. We know that we had on Friday last week, that day was open to persons coming to collect passwords. And we That is the normal process where we issue passwords directly to persons rather than send it on emails or whatever, to ensure that the security of the logon is kept to the individual rather than being exposed to possible intervention. And Friday last week was the day that was done. And as I was informed, many persons were there to collect the passwords. There might be some persons who have not come to collect their passwords and may be using user password when they were training. Those passwords will not give them access to the system. They will have to come to customs to get their new passwords. So I am asking persons who want to use, who using the system, who want to use the system, and who have not yet come to collect their passwords, right? That and access credentials, that they should come and do so at the project unit in the customs department. So that might be one of the issues that you may be experienced with not accessing the system. Another issue would be the use of Java. From my information, the requirement for the Java is Java 8.15. That information is on the portal, ASYCUDA portal, for all and sundry to access. And if you do not have that, the correct Java, Java, then you will not be able to access the system. I was at home about 6 o'clock in the morning, and someone called me asking me to help someone who cannot get onto the system. And I asked, do you have the correct Java? And the person said, oh, shoot, you know, I haven't even looked at my Java. And I told him, go and download the Java, make the adjustments, and get back to me. And in about 15 minutes, that issue was solved. So that, I know, is one of the issues that some of the persons are experiencing. So look at your Java, make sure you have the correct version, and after you download the version, go inside the software and make the adjustments. You have high levels and low levels. In most cases, you have to put it to low level to ensure that you can access the system. There have been other issues like persons saying that they cannot upload their manifest. That directly relates to the XML format of the manifest, where you use XML to transfer the data from the ship's agents into the ASYCUDA system. What we suspect, but we are not sure yet, but we are going to look at it, is that the settings from probably the Port Authority side might be high, and this is not to blame Port Authority in any way, but we suspect that. So we will have a discussion with Port Authority. We will set up a meeting. I think that meeting might be set up either tomorrow or for Monday, where we will look at the settings to see if that can be adjusted, to see if they can adjust the settings, sorry, and that will now facilitate other persons to come into the system. The other thing about the XML format is that the agents of the boats who have the IT persons developing the XML, they should really contact those IT persons to ensure that they are following the correct format, right, of the XML to ensure that it can be adequately uploaded within the system. So that's another area that we think that there is maybe an issue. The brokers, the Custom Brokers Association, have called me last night, or yes, well, kind of last night, yeah. One of the executives indicating that they need assistance. Immediately, I contacted my project manager and indicated to her that they must pay attention, special attention to the brokers. As a result of that, she had a meeting with the brokers today, and they were able to solve most of the issues. As a matter of fact, on my way here to this news conference, the member that I spoke to from the Custom Brokers Association thanked me and says, "Thank you, sir. We have now been able to solve a number of issues within that we were experiencing with entering the system." So that is the kind of approach that I am seeking to take to ensure that I deal and satisfy the relevant stakeholders that are out there. I've been in constant contact with the Chamber of Commerce, and they have a chat mode going, and I have been asked kindly to have a representative on that chat mode, and I gave them the relevant contact information for that person. And last night about 1 o'clock, I received an email from one of the members of the Chamber of Commerce thanking me, saying thanks. We have been able to solve a number of issues with the interaction of that person. And I'm sure that now, most of the issues that will be coming to light in the Chamber of Commerce would have been addressed. So we have solved the issues, or most of the issues with the brokers, with the Chamber of Commerce. This morning, yesterday evening, I received a call after 5 from the Barbados Manufacturing Association asking to meet me, for me to meet them, at their committee meeting this morning. Myself and my team, we attended the meeting, and we were able to deal with a number of issues. And they were surprised, first of all, that I would have accepted that request to be part of the process that quickly. But I said no. What I am here to do is to satisfy the stakeholders, to make sure that customers is cognizant that they are part of the process. So we had that meeting, and I'm sure that they are comfortable with what happened this morning. So going forward, yes, we know that there will be a couple of issues with the implementation of the system, but I can assure you, from my experience within the region, from my experience from internationally, that the issues that are currently experienced with ASYCUDA World are not insurmountable. As a matter of fact, I can almost say confidently that by next week, end of next week Friday, that most of these issues would have gone away, and we will be sailing into doing something good. Let me inform the public here. Customs, under my leadership, is willing to work with all stakeholders. We see the stakeholders as co-equal partners in their whole trade environment. And going forward, as I said to the Chamber of Commerce and to the Barbados Manufacturing Association, we are here to solve problems. We are here to facilitate trade. We are here to ensure that we bring Barbados back to the point where we can be proud of the economic growth within the country. I have had experience, and my last exposure has been in Jamaica, where I have been the project manager of implementing ASYCUDA World, the port community system, and the electronic single window. And Jamaica, like Barbados, was going through a similar IMF program. And I can say delightedly that under my guidance within the custom environment, the Jamaica Customs have been able to reach all of the IMF goals set for it, and in some cases surpass that process. So I am here. I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to accommodate, to provide guidance, and I assure you that within a short time, that the implementation of ASYCUDA World will serve to your benefit, the stakeholders, to your benefit, the government of Barbados, and to your benefit, the whole of Barbados. Thank you.
I wanted to touch on something very briefly before I ask Minister Sutherland to say a few words. Part of what we're dealing with here, in a real sense, is a matter of trust between government and people. And we have worked to rebuild that trust, because when a government department or official says that something will happen, the people must, in a sense, get a sense that it will. Now, things don't always go according to plan every time. And I think the one thing that I've taken away from this particular experience, especially, is that, especially with the 1 week delay with respect to the passage of what was then Tropical Storm Dorian, when we had to push back because some additional consultants were coming on to be able to help support the lead up. Because of that apathy that's been built up in the system, certainly as it relates to customs and trying to implement this before, I really do want to emphasize that as we are seeking to modernize government, do all the reforms to get government back into shape, we, the leaders, the politicians, in a sense, have to ensure that we empower people to be able to go and carry out the tasks that they're supposed to do, so that the public's expectations aren't diminished to the point where they no longer believe officials, or ministers in this instance, or public officials. Because it is important that for the society, in a sense, to function and for the economy really to move forward, that when we sit around a table and establish these stakeholder meetings, which certainly the Customs Department has been doing over the last 3 to 4 months, and certainly under the leadership of Mr. Holder here, the new Comptroller, that as we augment that mechanism going forward, that the engagement and the commitment to the process, and I want to re-emphasize that there is a process to doing things, and to the extent that in this instance, the new Comptroller and his management team will be focusing, as he has articulated, how do we facilitate the business of the people, and therefore creating the structures and mechanisms such that people will know that the processes become predictable, they are assessed, and part of what we will be looking at monitoring the Customs Department, there will be the development of some KPIs with respect to the performance of the department. And so with the introduction of these systems, we will be capable of measuring how things were against how things were before. And our commitment, certainly from the Ministry of Finance, is to allow for a process where we monitor, assess, and where there needs to be changes and improvements, that we do so, but we do so in a manner where there's consensus being built about the process. And engagement of the stakeholders are important, because in rebuilding that trust, and for people to see that things are happening within the time frame that you expect it to happen, give or take a few hiccups from time to time, that you can trust government, you can trust the departments of government, and the people working within government to be able to do that which we said that we were going to do. And part of this really is literally rebuilding, in a sense, not just the Customs Department, because admittedly, officers would have seen the same experience as well. You're going live, and you didn't. 2014. You're going live, and you didn't. 2015. You're going live, and you didn't. 2016. So even internally, we would have had some of those niggling doubts. But in driving this process through now and making the change, then people can, both internal to the process as well as external stakeholders, can start to feel confident that certainly the Customs Department has put one of what has been a long-standing issue, in a sense, to bed in terms of actually getting here. There's still some work to be done in terms of reaching out and making sure that those areas that need to be addressed are addressed. But this Customs Department, supported certainly by the Ministry of Finance and the government, is intended to ensure that we can fix a lot of those long-standing issues, certainly within the Customs Department, but across government as far as the trade facilitation elements are concerned. And therefore, we want to assure the public that stay engaged. The process, we will see it through, so that you can have confidence that when something is reported, that there's a mechanism, and out of that mechanism, there will be feedback with respect to decision making. And with this, we're going to roll this out department by department by department, because it's important that people maintain a level of trust with its public officials. I'll ask Minister Sutherland to say a few words.
Thank you, Minister Straughn, Comptroller, Customs, members of the media. We came to office just about a year and 5-6 months ago, and we said to our people that indeed we'll be engaged in building a new economy. This requires building new planks for economic growth and also modernizing old planks. And indeed, one of the critical aspects of us building and modernizing these planks for economic growth and indeed to enhance Barbados's competitiveness was the ease of doing business. And in my former life as an engineer in the private sector, and I had many dealings with the port, many dealings with customs, either through brokers or directly. And I can speak then on behalf of the business sector, whereby we would have experienced then many challenges in terms of the clearance of goods through customs, to the point that within the manufacturing sector, most if not all of the goods that come through the Bridgetown port handled by customs and brokers targeted to the manufacturing sector were all inputs to manufacturing. And most of you would understand, the business sector and the general public would understand, when you have delays in equipment coming into the country that are inputs to manufacture, then you would see delays in manufacturing, delays in production. And indeed, this goes further because you can also have layoffs. As a result, when you have no production, the first thing most private sector businesses do, they try to keep employment, but there comes a time when you would have to lay off. And indeed, we recognize that our planks for economic growth, the new planks for economic growth, requires that we address the ease of doing business. And not just the ease of doing business, but trade facilitation, what we call cross-border trade. And the ASYCUDA world is indeed the foundation for what we will see later, which is the electronic single window. And I want to thank the private sector, Chamber of Commerce, Barbados Manufacturers Association, and those small businesses for being patient with us. What we have gone through over the last 2 weeks will indeed enhance business in this country. It is a necessary thing that we have to do. Otherwise, we'll have long waiting lines at the port, we'll have business delays, we will have high costs of business operations, because when we don't have our parts and our inputs and we can't get our goods, then we have tremendous bottlenecks within related industries, whether it is the retail industry, it is the manufacturing industry. So the ease of doing business, utilizing and the ICT platform, what we call technology, information and communication technology, is indeed one of the ways that this government sees building out our economy, and indeed leaner, faster, more efficient, lowering the cost of operation. This is just one of the tools within the whole ecosystem as it relates to trade facilitation and the ease of doing business. So I'm here to say to the micro, small and medium enterprise sector and also the larger business community, things will get better as a result of the implementation of ASYCUDA World. Just like installing any new piece of equipment, whether it is within your home or it is within a factory, a manufacturing environment, you will have teething problems. And indeed, I can assure you on behalf of the government, if we have to treat with each business on a case-by-case basis, we will do that in order to ensure we minimize business disruption as a result of the implementation of ASYCUDA World. Next year, 2020, we'll see the implementation of the electronic single window, which is a cross-border trade facilitation system, whereby all regulatory documents will be uploaded into one single window. So if you are trading across borders with Barbados, you can put your documentation, your regulatory your regulatory documentation, into one single window. And we can see it at customs, we can see it at commerce, we can see it in the port, we can see it from the Ministry of Health, we can see it from the Ministry of Agriculture. What that means for business in this country. Faster processing and lowering the cost. Gone are the days where we will be asking someone from the Ministry of Health to drive from their respective location to go to some other location to approve goods coming into this country. Gone are the days when we'll be asking the Ministry of Agriculture within the veterinary section, for example, you're bringing in something relating to agriculture, you have to leave and go to some other office to approve that system. We'll be able to build on the foundation of ASYCUDA World in 2020 to indeed approve those goods sitting at our desks at our respective ministries. And indeed, that is business facilitation. We came to office and we saw when you speak to businesses outside of Barbados, extra-regional and within the region, what are some of the hiccups? They said the ease of doing business in Barbados. So we have started through the use of technology to make our systems more leaner, faster, and more importantly, more efficient, so that businesses feel comfortable trading across borders with Barbados. I again want to assure the business sector that this is something that is necessary as we deconstruct and reconstruct and create the new planks for economic growth and to enhance the ease of doing business in this country.